Well, good morning. Welcome to week 3 of W131. This is kind of a fun week. It's fun for me because I get to look at all your PPTs. I really appreciate those. I find them very interesting and informative. And I hope you did catch on to the kind of concept behind them. It gets you to do just a little critical thinking, a little bit of brainstorming, a little bit of organization, okay? And it gets you also to think in chunks. I really, at this day and age, you kind of get chunks of information. And a PowerPoint is a great way to look at chunks of information. And then when you're writing, when you're actually doing your writing, as you're going to be doing this week, you actually look at chunks of information, a chunk being a paragraph, all right? It's like a paragraph and a PowerPoint slide are kind of equivalent in nature, all right? And we'll get into that more. So this is week 3. It is a busy week. You have your literacy narrative due at the end of the week. That's a 2-page essay. And by the way, I'm expecting perfect college formatting. And we have the college formatting link in item 5.4. Make sure you look at that. Do not format these papers incorrectly. You need to learn how to do things correctly, both in college and in business and throughout the rest of your life. There are instructions and rules for the way you format a paper. I don't make these up, okay? This is not my preference. This is just the way it's done, right? Okay, so we're going to look at the literacy narrative. I'm basically asking you to look at a point in your life where you enjoyed something about reading, enjoyed or learned something about writing. All right, it can be very early in your life. It can be, present in your life. It can also be about reading to your own kids, how important that kind of is. That is, excuse me. But I'm looking for a well-focused essay about a small unit of your life regarding reading or writing. Okay, and that's the key. It has to be about reading or writing. If you look at all of the items in item 7 in your learning module, I go through the criteria for the paper very carefully. The criteria means the specific elements that I want. Then I go item 7.2 is the actual rubric. And a rubric's a teaching tool. It tells you exactly how I'm going to assess the paper. And if you look at the rubric, you can see the learning aspect of it. I kind of tell you what a good paragraph looks like, that kind of a thing. I tell you what a good essay looks like. So that's what the rubric does. If you look at item 7.3, I have some examples there of other people's literacy narratives. And, if I put them there, it means they got a high B or an A at least, okay. I only put good stuff there. And then at the end of the week, you're actually not turning the paper into me. I will not be looking at it until September 25th. Rather, at the end of this week, you're turning it into what's called peer review, and most of you probably did this in high school. And the purpose of peer review is just to give you an opportunity to read other people's work, to learn from them. You can recognize a good paragraph when you see one. You might not be able to write one yet, but when you see one, you say, oh my God, that's what a good paragraph looks like. All right? Or when you see a well-focused essay, you'll recognize it and say, oh man, this person's not rambling. They're telling a really good, concise story. Okay, so you learn from peer review. It's not just you grading somebody else's paper or yakking about it. It's like what you're getting from somebody else's paper yourself. Okay. So a lot of students don't like peer review. I understand that, okay? It's very normal. It doesn't work all the time. It does not work 100% of the time. If it works 60 or 70% of the time, I feel really good about that. Sometimes you don't get enough comments on your own work, helpful comments. It doesn't do any good to hear everybody say, well, I liked your paper. You need to hear why they liked your paper, what you were doing well about your paper, so you can repeat that in your next papers. That's the whole point. Okay, and then very often, the reader will discover some places where you've left out a lot of detail. You thought you said what was in your head, but you didn't quite show it to the reader enough. Good writing is about good detail, good specifics, good examples. Later on about good research, okay? And good writing is also about good focus. It's also about paragraphs that stick to one point. So please make sure that you look at items 5.6, particularly very, very important lecture. Item 5.6, writing with paragraphs. Critical, critical, critical. How do you write with paragraphs? Then, as I said earlier, I'm expecting to see these well formatted. That's item 5.5. Your final submission, your revised copy. So you guys look at each other's paper. You always turn in a revision to me, to your supervisor. You don't turn in a rough draft of a proposal at work. Okay, you write the proposal in your job. Okay, if you're in the military, you're going to write a strategic analysis, even a battlefield report, an after-action report. You write it one time. And then you say, okay, and then you let it off and you just let it sit for like a couple hours until, it kind of ferments a little bit, all right? And then you go back to it and say, I should have put this in, or I should have reworded this, or here's some places where I left out a lot of detail. I need to think about it some more. That's the purpose of revision. You never turn in your first effort, and you never throw away your first effort. If your first effort's not very good, you don't throw away. You build from that, okay? That's the whole purpose of revision. So this week, you need to be writing, you need to be focusing, you need to be looking very carefully at the learning module. Make sure you look at items 5.4 very, very carefully, formatting college papers. Item 5.5, an example of a properly formatted paper. Item 5.6, writing paragraphs. Please look at 5.7, writing transitions. Transitions help you smoothly go from one paragraph to the next, so your essay flows. It's not a matter of which paragraphs you put in which order. It's a matter of how you get from one paragraph to the next. That's what the transition is. All right. So as usual, if you have any questions, please let me know. Turn your essay in at the end of this week. Then you have a week to think about it. Actually, it looks to me like you have 2 whole weeks to think about it and complete peer review, and then you turn it into me on the 25th, along with what's called a writing memo. And I'll get back in touch with you next week and talk a little bit more about how peer review continues to work throughout next week, all right, and then what the writer's memo is and that kind of stuff. As usual, if you have any questions, feel free to get a hold of me.